Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today with us. We welcome you, Allison, James, Diane, and myself to being here and taking the time to listen to our presentation today. So first, my name is Veronica Alvarez, and I'm with Partner Resource Network Team Project. I'm going to talk a little bit about the agency that I represent, and then we are going to our speakers are going to share the screen and talk about themselves too. So Partner Resource Network is the parent training and information center for Texas. We are the PTIs here in Texas, and we are a nonprofit, and we are funded by the Department of Education, specifically the Office of Special Education, OSEP, to provide free resources and training for parents of children with disabilities, and also to young adults, self-advocates with disabilities. Our mission is to empower and support Texas families and individuals impacted by disabilities or special healthcare needs. Who we serve? We serve parents of children and youth with disabilities from the ages from 0 to 26, as well as youth with disabilities self-advocates age 14 to 26. So Partner Resource Network has been first founded in 1986. It's been a long time that we are working here in Texas. And since October the 1st, we have a new project also serving parents. So now we are 4 projects serving our parents. So we are the Parent Training Information Center for Texas, and we are 4 projects. Specifically, I'm part of the team project. In the map, you can see the red area. So I'm in Austin, and the team project serve Austin, San Antonio, and the Rio Valley area, the Region 1, Region 13, Region 20, and Region 1. So our services are free, and we offer parent workshops, do workshops, webinars, information and referrals, one-on-one technical assistance, art support, IEP support. We do each coordinator make a symposium once a year. We have leadership training for parents and for youth. And like I told you guys, everything is free right now because of the pandemic. Everything is online. And we are going to be telling you guys when we go back again and we can meet again face-to-face and do the one-on-ones and stuff like that. So housekeeping items. So if you have any question, please don't hesitate and put it there in the chat box. And we will be answering. Sometimes Allison and James can stop a little bit the presentation and answer some questions. Or if not, then in the end, we can answer some questions. If we don't have time, we can also email you guys the answer of your questions. This webinar is going to also be recorded and is going to be shared in our projects in Facebook, in our Facebook pages. And also Allison is going to share it in a YouTube channel that they have. We just ask you guys at the end of this presentation, you are going to receive an email with a survey. That's very important to us to have to hear about what you can say about it. Your feedback is very important, and with that, we can report to our grant. We don't provide CEUs for this kind of presentation, but if you need a certificate of attendance, please email me, and I can give one to you guys. And also, you are going to receive the slides of this presentation in an email that I'm going to send you. So now, Allison, you can share your screen. We are going to listen to Allison Schaber. She's a financial planner and owner of Consolidated Planning Group. She has over 25 years of experience in working with families with disabilities. And today she is going to be talking about this important topic with James and Diane about, is college an appropriate pathway for your student, using vocational evaluation, data to make an informed, empowered decision. I think it's a great topic to talk. And we have also James Williams and Diane. Sorry if I say your last name wrong, Diane.
It's Lichtenberg. Lechtenberger. There you go. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
They are from Bloom Consulting, and they give advice and support to neurodiverse college students with disabilities, and they are going to talk more about what they do.
Thank you, Veronica, for having us again. It's always nice to be back with you guys. And so Allison Schaberg, Consolidated Planning Group, as she said, we are a special needs financial planning firm. We put out a lot of educational topics on a weekly basis, monthly basis, partnering with other organizations that serve the special needs community and bring tools and resources to our community that we don't bring. And so I am excited and delighted to bring Bloom Consulting today. I personally had the pleasure of talking with Dr. Williams about who they are and who they serve and what they do and why we need them. And I'm going to tell you, as a parent with kids with special needs, I was super excited, and I think that you're gonna feel the same way. So we're just going to advance these slides here. And so, James, I'll be paying attention and I'll be advancing your slides, but if I'm a little early or a little late, just let me know. I'm super excited to have both of you here today. So tell us, certainly tell us a little bit about Zoom and why you guys are awesome, and what we need to know about Bloom. Please.
Sure. So hi everyone. Again, I'm Dr. James Williams. My colleague, Dr. Dean Lechtenberger, is also going to be joining me today. And Bloom Consulting, we do a lot of different things, but a way to sum it up would be to say that we are the experts where disability and employment meet. So my background of my colleague, Bruce Bloom, who the company's named after, who founded our organization, is in certified rehabilitation counseling. So we're both certified rehab counselors. We both have masters in rehab counseling. My doctoral degree is focused on education, but my dissertation study is on autism and employment and parent factors. And so this is what I do every day. It's what my staff and I do every day, is help individuals with disabilities. Autism, I'd say it's one of our specialties, but it's certainly not the only population we work with, but not at all. And really focus on helping those individuals, regardless of their age, achieve employment. So we work with individuals that are coming straight out of high school, that are maybe getting their first job, never worked before, never volunteered before even, all the way to individuals maybe that are in their 60s or 70s that are wanting to return to the workforce and do a little bit of work, keep themselves busy, get out of the house, enjoy their lives, and then everybody in between. So it's a really wide age range. I tell people we don't really have a upper age limit that we work with. And I guess we really don't have a lower one either. I mean, I would say for the most part, we tend to focus on, I would say 14, 15 years old and older in terms of some of our training classes that are offered with our school district partners. But yeah, and then that whole range in between. So we serve a lot of different people. But again, all of our services will really revolve around work. So I'm going to work, doing evaluations and assessment for work, or doing, training and learning how to, basically prepare themselves for work, or actually, helping someone find a job and placing them in a job. So all of our services tend to revolve around those areas. And of course, today's topic, post-secondary education, is very much a part of that.
So basically, you mentioned 14 is a good time. That tends to be closer to the freshman year of high school. So getting these types of assessments that you're going to talk about and knowing what maybe the shortcomings might be early gives you that 4 years of high school, or in some cases where people are staying in high school longer, to build those skills and close the gap and make them more employable over that time period. But if you're not late to the party, so if your kid's already 17 or 18, so 14 is ideal. Younger is good because we have more time, but you're not late to the party. So I just wanted to say that. Well, we're just excited to have you, and so I'm just going to move your slide here.
Awesome. So I gave a little bit about me. Dia, do you want to introduce yourself as well and talk a little bit about your background?
Yes, that'd be great. I also wanted to mention too, first of all, I've been an educator, special educator in the state of Texas for 17 years in the classroom. And then I have also been in higher ed for over 20 years. I'm also the parent of a grown son with disabilities. And so I come to this work originally trying to figure out what went wrong along the way and how could I help the people coming from behind me. So one of the things I'll tell you that we did right with my son is we always talked to him about, even when he was young, when you get to be 18 and you finish high school, you will go to work or you will go to college, and you might do a little of both. And we talked about it as though it was a done deal, so that he knew that was the goal. What I find is a lot of parents are afraid to talk about that with them. And if you tell them about it in a way that everyone makes those choices, I think it makes it less scary once you get to that 14 and on up, when we start talking to them about it. Because if they've never heard it and never knew that you expected that, it's really overwhelming. So I would encourage you to talk about it from forever, just like you would in your other children, because that's just the way the world works. So I just wanted to put that in there. And I have just recently retired from Texas Tech University and ran a program there that was a model program for 8 young years. It's still going on. And part of what I came to Bloom was I wanted to retire, be close to family. So I'm in the Austin area, and but I still want to work with families. And so it was important to me to work with a group that already served students with disabilities, that I could add something to that. And so the model and the information you're going to hear about today is also based on lessons learned from the things James and I have done individually as well as collectively, because we're stuck with each other, okay? And we hope it's for the betterment of other people across the state. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Deanne. So a big thing that comes up here, what are common barriers to college and employment? A lot of them are the barriers that a lot of folks find that, and I'm sure some of you, if you have older students or older children or even adult children, have been through. But there are a lot of the similar barriers that students without disabilities go through. And one of the ways that I like to explain that, and I can't take credit for this, I actually heard it from another presenter one year, and I asked him, could I take it? Because I said, it just explains it so well. And it is my bottom quote that says, "It's a gym, not a spa." And he was an individual that ran a college support program in the New England area. And he said, we used to tell our students, welcome to college. College is a gym, not a spa. And he said, and I explained why. He said, in a spa, they bring you your own towel. They bring you your food. They do everything for you. They make you comfortable. They, treat you luxuriously. He's like, in a gym, you got to get your own towel. In a gym, you got to pick your own equipment. In a gym, you got to go to the desk if you need help. And it's the same aspect in college, even with a support program like ours, even with another support program out there, even the most intensive programs, the student still has to advocate for their own needs. And what our goal really is to make sure that the services are there when they do advocate. So when they're asking for the help, we make sure they get it. And that is very much on us. And that is our job, and my staff's job, and Deanne and our job. But they still have to ask. And so that, I would say, if I had to pick a barrier, the biggest barrier to both college and employment is asking for help. Communicating. I cannot tell you how detrimental the lack of asking for help can be. It can destroy a student in terms of get them fired. It can get them dropped out of school. It can get them in some serious mental health issues. It can even get them in legal trouble. So making sure that they ask for help, whether it be on the job site or in the college classroom, whether they're with us or not, is so crucial, and truly, in my opinion, the biggest barrier to college and employment. Deanne, anything you would add quickly to that?
No, except the fact that in a spa, they're going to bring the water to you, and they're going to fix everything so that you take a nice bubble bath or whirlpool or whatever. In college, you have to take your own shower. That is something we deal with all the time, and so do employers. So just a reminder, they have to be able to take their own shower.
Yes, my colleague has a saying, and I'll share it because it's just, there's no other better way to put it. He said, he tells our customers, he said, you can get smelly at work, but you can't go to work smelly. And it's very true. We have clients that do jobs outside in the Texas heat, and yeah, they sweat, and yeah, they don't smell like roses and fantastic at the end of their 6-hour shift. However, they came in smelling okay, because that's what's expected in a workplace. So great example. Thanks, Dan. Requirements of competitive work. Competitive work is a really crucial term that I think a lot of people take advantage. So we're not talking about sheltered work. We're not talking about a carved out job. And the reason that's important to explain is there are opportunities for people with disabilities in employment where they are working, but they're working in a job that's made specifically for them. We call it customized employment, sheltered employment, carved out employment. It's all tomato, to be honest. Just a little bit of a different word. But But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about competitive integrated employment. And the competitive integrated employment is exactly what it says. It's competitive, meaning they're competing against people with disabilities and people without disabilities. And it's integrated, meaning it's not special jobs for special people. They're jobs at, you know, an office that people without disabilities work at. They're jobs at a store or a restaurant or a place or a location where people without disabilities work right alongside them. And that is our goal with not only everything we do at Bloom. Everything we do here is dedicated to competitive employment, but it's also the goal of the Campus Connections program and any of the services we offer is how can we get, regardless of where people are at, to that competitive employment piece. So with that understood, things like socially appropriate work behaviors, those aren't nice to have, those are have tos. We tell people all the time, if you're working in a retail setting and you scream at a customer, you're going to get fired, whether you have a disability or not. An employer's not going to put up with that. And to be frank, that they don't really have to. That's not what the law says. That's not an accommodation to let their employees yell at customers. Same with, and so socially appropriate work behavior it's not a maybe, it's a have to. Of course, the ability to perform the essential functions of a job, meaning, if you're going to be, a waiter, can you be a waiter, right? Can you do the tasks that a waiter does? It's just an example. Operating independently, yes, there are situations where we're able to provide job coaches for our customers and clients we work with, and we do, but that's not forever. If we have a customer that we're working with that needs a job coach, a one-on-one person with them by their side for the rest of their work life, that is possible with some waiver programs, that is possible with some other programs, but that's not competitive employment. We're talking about competitive employment, meaning we can help them get that job, provide initial job coaching and support, and then we can fade back and allow the student or the individual, the adult, to continue on their own. Even if that means with phone calls and check-ins from us, but not one-on-one forever. Their ability to manage their own time, coming in for breaks, arriving and leaving on time, really crucial. And then activities of daily living, right? Deanne talked about showering, things like that. Again, these are not maybes. These are requirements of competitive work. So whether you're going to college or going straight into the workforce, if you can't do these things, or the degree to which these things are challenging for you, will very much affect your ability to be employed or go to college successfully and complete. The results of these barriers, and I'm a positive focused person, and especially on a cold, chilly, dark day like today, I don't want to spend too much time in the negatives. So the short of it is how are we doing getting people with disabilities jobs? Frankly, I'll let you read the stats on your own. We're not doing a great job. And people ask me all the time, well, do these stats change much? No, they really don't. They stay pretty bad all the time. So, and they really are. The one that I'm going to focus on the most, because the others are more specific, is the first one up top. 20.5% of people or people with disabilities participate in the workforce, adults, versus 68% for adults without disabilities. So what that's basically saying is people with disabilities are participating in a workforce at 1/3 the rate of the counterparts or their individuals that don't have disabilities. So that's a huge issue. And to be honest, a bad statistic we should not be okay with. We can, as a country, as a nation, honestly, even as a world, do a lot better, and we really have to. And so a lot of these, unfortunately, though, result from the lack of those skills that we talked about in the previous slide. When those things aren't happening or there's deficits there, they will affect the ability for someone to participate in the workforce, hands down. We've seen it over again in the literature. I've seen it every day in the work my staff and I do, and we see it in college campuses and college classrooms as well.
I want to add too. Can I add something right there?
Please do.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted and didn't realize. One of the things to realize too is that even though those stats are bad, what we know and what we're presenting you today is to let you know there is hope, and it's not way out there. It's here today. It's just a matter of putting people in touch with the right places at the right time. And the reason I say that is, again, referring back to a program that I ran in Lubbock at Texas Tech, that we're kind of basing the work we are. It's a new improved model for this for Campus Connections, is that we have proof that students can go through and have specialized supports and end up being very independent, getting jobs that pay more than what I've ever made. Things like that. And I just want to encourage you, regardless of how old your child is right now, don't give up. And especially if I can speak for kids that are on the spectrum, a lot of times when they're young, people are making decisions and telling you things that you think are going to be the forever answer, and it's very discouraging. However, the stories I've heard from the students that graduated from Texas Tech and South Plains College that we worked with, they heard those stories too when they were 5 and 6 years old. Their parents were told, you need to put them in an institution. Their parents were told they would never walk, they would never read, they would never. And let me assure you, they did more than those things. So yes. I just want to tell you to not give up hope. And just today, I think my main goal is for you to know that there are things out there right now that you can look forward to and follow. If your child is young, if your child is older, like Allison said, you're not too late, but just here's the things that are out there now. So that's
absolutely. No, and very much. As part of that, I will say, I'll talk a little bit about my study that I did. And that is that, we focused on that relationship between the successful employment of adults age 26 and older. And in my case, I looked just at autism, although I would challenge people to think that this is probably pretty common across disability, my guess would be, is we looked at connections between employment and what parents were doing or not doing. And we didn't find connections between characteristics, demographics, behaviors, but you know what we found? We found that parental expectations did have a meaningful relationship with successful employment. So another way to think of that is a parent's positive expectations may increase the likelihood of their adult child achieving a successful employment outcome. And the reason that's really important to say is to think about it even further. Go further to say, even just that alone, everything else aside, right? Every other consideration aside, age, gender, economic, just the fact that a parent believes, okay, that the parent expects and believes that their son or daughter is going to work really does have a connection between whether they actually do it. And that may sound common sense to you, but I promise you it's not, because I can't tell you how many parents I talk to that say, well, this is all great information, Deanne and James, but my son or daughter has an intellectual disability, or my son or daughter has mental health and autism, or my son or daughter, and I've heard it all, by the way. I've been presenting for 2 decades now, so I've heard it all. And yeah, okay, and I hear them, and those are not things to just ignore. They're not. But at the same time, part of me also wants to tell them, yes, but just you believing that it's possible could actually change the outcome. So instead of looking at what they can't do and looking at that deficit-based approach, which is the opposite of what Deanna and I are trying to encourage, look at it as a strengths-based approach of, hey, what can they do? Because believe it or not, every student I've ever met, every adult I've ever met with a disability and without has strengths, period. They do. I've never met one that I'm like, oh, he has no strengths. That's never happened. Literally never, not once. I've been doing this work for 2 decades, never had that happen. So really important to look at that.
Are you ready for the next slide?
Yes, ma'am,
Yes.
I am. Okay. Sorry, you were so good, Allison. I didn't even say anything. I was like, I just thought you were reading my mind.
Okay, this next part is more explanation of the actual campus connection program that we are offering through Bloom Consulting. And part of what I want to tell you, as I've mentioned previously, it's based on other work we've observed either in the program that I created at Tech or talking with other professionals across the country, of looking at what works and how do we use their strengths to build their confidence, build their the skills that we will talk about in a minute. How do we build those so that they can be independent and successful? And so we want to explain why there's a difference between what we do and disability services, because every college has disability services office, and they all.
And you can go to the next slide, Allison, and we'll look at some of those differences. I think Deanne, you were going to talk about them.
Yeah. Sorry, Allison. There we go.
She got it.
Okay. Disability services is offered on every campus, and basically the only way that students can actually use their services is they have to go and sign up. Again, it's not like high school where you're automatically identified and people come and find you. And it's a good and a bad thing. The good thing is it gives our kids a chance to start over. No one has to know they have a disability unless they're ready to disclose that. And we have many students who try that to make it on their own. But we highly encourage them as a faculty member to sign up in case they eventually need those services. They may not need them when they first start. But anyway, these are the different things that student disability services can offer. If you notice, it all has to do with academics. They do work on some organizational skills, and depending on how many students they serve, they may do a little bit more individualization, but they're pretty boxed in by their job description to really support students in academic ways. And so Campus Connections will loosely support that in addition to the support they're getting from Student Disability Services. But we're going to provide services that don't come along with being in college. And I'll tell you that my brother had my niece in college at the time we were building the program, and he goes, "Why isn't there a program like this for all college kids? They all need it. They all don't know, what they're doing. They don't know how to open a bank account. They don't know to go to the health center when they're sick." I mean, so again, some of it is common sense stuff, but some of it is also support in helping, as James mentioned, about learning how to communicate. And so I'll stop there, but I'll let James talk about the program in more detail. But please know that this is not something we made up last week and let's just see if it works. It has been proven over the last 9 years that what we're going to be doing does work. We're just offering it to a broader audience because not every child wants to go to Texas Tech, and not every parent wants to send their kid to Lubbock. It's a long way from Houston, and I had many students from Houston, and a 10 or 12-hour drive to go get your kid if there's a problem is scary. So again, we're offering it in a way that a student can go anywhere to any kind of college, post-secondary educational program, and work with us to get those supports. So with that, I'll let James talk about the program.
Yeah, definitely. You go to the next slide. And so a little bit about Campus Connections. And we talked today about vocational assessment, and what I want to do is I went a little differently today, and instead of talking about assessment on its own, which is what I normally do, today I actually decided to flip things and do a little differently, where we're going to talk about Campus Connections, and then I'm going to talk about the assessments we embed within it, because they in and of themselves, by themselves, are really great assessments anyways. So we'll talk about those in a second. But our idea with Campus Connections is rather than telling a student, hey, you have to come to this school, you have to get this degree, you have to get this, you have to learn this, you have to become this for a job, and you have to fit into our, square hole or, square peg. You got to be a square, you got to fit into a square. What we did instead is we said, how can we wrap around our support for that student around what they want to do? So wrap it around their program of choice, their degree, their certificate, their school, and do it not only in person, but as we've all learned, whether, for best, better, for worse, also, how do we do that virtually? So, and not just for COVID, but also just for the future. More and more students every day are going to school online. They're going to GW, they're going to University of Phoenix. They're going to schools that do not have campuses. And so, but do those students need college support any less if they have a disability? I don't think so. That's not what I've seen. It may look different because instead of a physical building, it's an email box or a phone call or a department. But you know what? It's still something that needs to be, that they need support with. And so our goal is really virtually or in person, help students with disabilities that are going to college attend the institution of their choice in a program that they choose. The two pieces that we focus on in Campus Connections, and this is based off of the original case model that Deanna and her team pioneered, was using the wraparound planning process, which we can talk about more in a little bit. And then the Berkman method assessment, which we have some slides on and we'll talk about as well. And basically using that planning process and that assessment, bringing those together to build an individualized support team for a student. And what that does is pairs them with a connections coach, which is what we call our team. And that person provides mentoring, guidance, and navigational support. The whole goal, though, is not to give them a student fish, as you will say. It's to teach them how to fish. So it's about that relationship is not, hey, your coach is going to do all these things for you and be your personal servant and personal assistant. Although some of our students probably like to think of them that way, and they find out quickly that's not the case. But no, what our staff are doing is they're helping them learn how to do it for themselves. So the relationship is empowering the student to problem solve their own concerns more effectively and fostering informed choice, meaning they're in the driver's seat, they're making those decisions. And most importantly, long-term in their lives, become greater self-advocates. It has a couple of components. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'm going to go over the highlights real quick. Obviously we start with an initial career assessment. The Berkman is what we use as primarily, and we'll talk about that on its own slides because there's some really cool graphs and things that explain it much better than I can. We do monthly meetings.
Tell him I'm handling it. And sorry.
No, you're good.
Allison,
and then, yeah, she got it. And then, really focus on monthly progress meetings. So working with those students and that team member on as they go through the wraparound process, and as we plan with them and adjust our goals and work with them in real time, we were constantly monitoring and going through that process. I think we'll talk about that in a bit. Monthly virtual and in-person social events designed to facilitate those connections between students. We really are focused also too on providing some weekly group skills classes, not just on social skills, but on things related to networking, socialization, how to be a college student, how to get involved in student organizations, really how to access the full college experience and life that students without disabilities have. And we want to create that open access for them. And then of course, more support if they need it. So a lot of times we have students, and Deanne can tell you this from personal experience, you have students that need just the minimum level of support, and that is totally fine, and that's all they need. And then you get some students who not only are they doing that, but they also need some texting during the week to check in on some things, or they need a phone call or two, or they need an email or two, or they need a FaceTime or a Zoom or two. Totally fine. And we're building in for that as well to make sure that we can really, again, meet their needs, not tell them to fit into our program and what our program is. Because frankly, that's not really, any student. I don't know about you guys. I've never met one student or a group of students that all need the same exact thing. They don't. So I think it's foolish for us to try to force them to meet that. And instead, we are going to provide the support that they need with some core components that are in common. Yes, just frankly, because we have to have kind of a set of pillars, if you will, or a three-legged stool, as Deanne and them have talked about before. But part of that is really making sure that we're empowering that student. And then the last piece that I'm most excited about is post-graduation internships and job placement referrals and support. So our goal is that we're really not just helping them get through college, because there's been a lot of programs up to this point, CASE is one of them, that help students get through college and did an amazing job at that. And yes, we want to achieve that. However, just as importantly, in fact, I would argue from my perspective as a rehab counselor, more importantly, we want to help them get a job after college. So they would work they'd be transitioned to our employment team, and our employment team would then work on helping them find job placement and actually get into a job with that degree after they finish the college experience. So this is not a one and done program. This is not a couple months or a year. Our goal really is to, wherever the student comes to us, whether that's their freshman year, their sophomore, senior, junior year, is help them get through college, that college degree and that certificate that they want to do, and then help them get that job afterwards. It's also focused on everything from undergraduate college freshmen who are getting a bachelor's, associate's degree, even a certificate program. Maybe they're becoming looking at welding or auto tech, all the way through graduate school. Deanne and her team work with grad students, and I can tell you from being a grad student, your disability doesn't go away just because you become a grad student. You still need support. So we want to be able to support those individuals as well. In terms of cost, there's really two ways that we're funding the service. To start, we're funding it on a private pay basis. It's about $1,000 a month private pay, which I can tell you is by far the cheapest I've seen out there. We really wanted to make it very, very affordable and accessible to families. However, what I hope people will do is, rather than do that, they will work with our VR partners in Texas and Nevada and fund the service through them. At this point, we have been awarded a contract with Nevada's VVR system as of actually late last week. That contract is now signed and done. And so we'll be able to offer it to 20 different students at 4 campuses across the state of Nevada. Real quickly off the top of my head, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, CSM, which is College of Southern Nevada, Western Nevada College, which is in Carson City, and then Truckee Mountain Community College, which is in Reno. And so we're really excited, but that's only half of it. In addition, in the same time, when we launch those programs in August of this year, both virtually and in person, we'll also be launching our programs in Texas. And our 2 starting institutions in Texas are going to be Concordia University in Northwest Austin and Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, which is north of Houston. And then we'll also offer virtual services as well. So we're really excited about that. And those are just our starting partners, you guys. They are not our ending partners. We really want to develop the models with these amazing people that we've met at these institutions. And then we want this to become a statewide and nationwide model that we can work with other schools and other states and other VR agencies to roll out over time.
Dr. Williams, we've got a couple of questions. So a couple of things. You threw out VR, and I know that you know that backwards and forwards, but some of the people that we have on here may not. So when we're talking about VR, vocational rehab, this is through the Texas Workforce Commission, used to be DARS. And so they have services also for your 14-year-old and up. They do start younger. They have all kinds of programs. They do have money. There are programs that can you can use both. Basically what he's saying is, we couple our services with the vocational rehab programs out there. There's a lot of great services. We do have other Zoom meetings that are going to be coming up on vocational rehab. The word on the street is vocational rehab is hard to connect with. They don't call me back. I don't know who my person is. Their turnover rate is high, and it's all true.
And it's all true.
It's all true.
Unfortunately.
But we have recently made a connection with a new person that has been hired to basically get the program out, to get the intakes happening, and to close that gap of the issues that I just highlighted. So we're super excited about that.
Yes.
So I just wanted, for anybody that didn't know what VR was, I wanted to say what that was so they know. Again, Texas Workforce Commission Vocational Rehab. You can Google that and find out how to do an intake or what have you.
And let me just say that that's for Texas. And James mentioned Nevada. And James, what's it called in Nevada?
Oh, yes. Good. Great question. Because I think we actually have some people from Nevada on today.
Oh,
I saw it. Yes, it's called BVR. So in Texas, it's Texas Workforce Solutions VR Services, or TWS VRS. I know, very long. In Nevada, it's just called BVR. It's the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation. And just like Texas's system, it falls under their Workforce Commission, which in Nevada, of course, gotta love acronyms. In Nevada, they're called DETR. In Texas, it's TWC, Texas Workforce Commission, but it's all tomato, just two different states with different names, but it's the same program. But I will also tell you, Allison, similar challenges in Nevada as well. Hard to get a hold of them and things like that. But what I tell people is, just like Texas, and they have, I think, Marilyn coming on, who's, by the way, a wonderful person. I've known her since she was a counselor for about 10 years, and she's fabulous. And so I'm thrilled to hear that she has that position. That made me so excited when I saw that yesterday. But I will tell you, same with Nevada, if you're having trouble, reach out to my staff. We spend a lot of our time, to be frank, not just doing the services, which is what we want to do, by the way, and what our heart and our love is, but we also spend a lot of time connecting people to resources, just like Allison and her team does. So we'll connect you to somebody we know, a VR manager, somebody who we hope can help get you through some of those barriers. So if you're hitting a brick wall, please reach out to us. Now, I can't make them do anything. I don't work for them and I don't speak for them, but I can also get you to great people that I know are responsive to emails, and we'll call you back. And that's the goal. So I'm glad to hear that. And Allison's right. Despite the challenges, and I'll say this on behalf of somebody who's worked with VR for 20 years and in 2 states and probably more in the future. Yes, there are problems. I also will tell you, they also can do some amazing services when you can get to the right person. A lot of it is based on the counselor and the office you're in. So for instance, a student in, I'll just pick a place in Houston, may have one counselor and may not have a good experience. Vice versa, we've got a counselor by our office here in Round Rock who is phenomenal and will literally do anything she can. She's met with students of ours at 8 o'clock at night on a Wednesday to talk with them about their concerns, because she's so dedicated. So just keep in mind, it's a spectrum for sure. And so, but I'm thrilled to hear Marilyn's going to be helping, because I think that will help a lot. Again, it's out there. The help is certainly out there.
One thing that I wanted to chime in, somebody asked if you'll slow it down. That's a story of my life too. Slow down a little bit from a speech perspective. On this slide, one thing that you hit on that I wanted to just discuss for a second, there are other companies out there, and I don't remember if it was on your slide, that have, like, basically it's a private company that you pay about 50 or 60 grand a year, and then your child goes alongside to college. I'm not going to name any names. They're a great company, but they're cost prohibitive for a lot of families in Texas. I'm speaking Texas solely. So when you were speaking, so the price tag of $1,000 per month private pay seems pretty crazy for some, but at the other side of it, when we're talking about these other businesses that have this, college type of program, basically they live off campus and they go to the community college and they help them with all kinds of life skills and social interaction and just basic living stuff. But it's expensive and most people can't afford it. So I just wanted to say, and I know that, from a time perspective, we got to get through these slides, but that's where you guys have a lot of different programs. Number one, it's not all $1,000 a month. So they do have assessments and, where they can do an assessment for you. You're not signing up for $1,000 a month. I wanted to be clear on that. But this versus some of these other programs that we've seen, some of these other ones are it's just a flat no. We can't afford to do that and send my child to college.
Absolutely. So, neither can I.
So let me see if we have any other questions. Let me just peek at those questions.
This is Deanne. I've been answering as many as I can while y'all are talking. But what I wanted to add with this slide for parents that are on here, one of the goals of this program is to let you go back to being mom and dad. You've been an advocate forever, and God bless you, because they wouldn't be where they are now if it wasn't for you.
Agreed.
And you are still a very key component in their life, the main one for the rest of their lives, actually. But what we want to do is be able to come alongside and say, okay, we've got them. We're not cutting you off. We're still going to include you, but you can go back to being their cheerleader. So when they call home and they're homesick, you can say, you know, I love you, and we're going to get together at Thanksgiving, or we're going to come up next weekend or whatever, so that you can go back to being that parent. And like I said, their cheerleader, and reminding them that they're going to be okay. And we can communicate with you if there are issues that we need to address in the program to help them. But that's one of the best compliments I ever got from a student over the last 8 years was he was asked to do an interview, and I wasn't involved in it, so I didn't prompt him to say this. But at the end of the interview, he said, and you know, the best part about being in this program is I have a much better relationship with my mom and dad, and I can really talk to them. And I mean, and this was with a pretty put together family. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't really have any
I know that family.
problems.
That was what I worked with. Yeah.
But the bottom line is, you know, when you can back off and relax a little bit and enjoy the fact that you have a college student now and a young adult, it'll be amazing how much fun they'll be compared to some of the other stuff you've had to deal with. Speaking from experience, I will just say that. So just be aware that there's a lot to this besides just what the student's getting that you see on this slide. It's really hard to describe everything they get. But it's what I call a safety net. You know, we have served kids and helped kids talk to law enforcement when there was a misunderstanding about getting a ticket. We've gone to the dean of students with them because someone accused them of cheating and they weren't. They were just humming to themselves. I mean, you know, so, you know, we kind of, I always say disability services on a college campus is the brick, and this kind of program is the mortar. We are what fill in the cracks, fill in the gaps, so that students don't fall off the cliff or, you know, get lost in the shuffle. So
I think it's the path forward towards the ultimate goal of the independent or as independent living as possible.
Yes.
And it's cutting some of those purse strings, the apron strings or whatever, as mama helicopter moms and what have you, but allowing them to grow in their own strength and their own ability, and kind of together through their program, kind of taking charge of some of this is exciting. And I do want to say, because you mentioned Concordia and Sam Houston, I have a child at Sam Houston, and I'm excited that you're partnering with them, because I have to tell you, our experience over the last 3 years of working with the Office of Disability at that university has been fantastic. And when we were researching schools, I know we did it backwards, but we researched the Office of Disability first, and that's how we got to Sam Houston. And I just want to say for anybody considering that, there's a lot of great schools out there, but they have been absolutely wonderful. So I'm going to move on in the sake of time. And we got about 15 minutes before we wrap up, so I'm going to move to the next slide if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and I'd like, just so you guys know, and Allison, you as well, I'm going to try to finish us between 12:50 and 12:55 for questions. So yeah, and a lot of these are process slides. So these are FYI. So if you want to apply, you've got our whole process and all the links to do that. This is an FYI slide you're welcome to use later. So you can go to the next one. And then this is what I'll talk a little bit about. So one of the services we do, both embedded within Campus Connections, but even more broadly, we do a much broader, much more kind of what I would call beefier vocational evaluation and assessment support. And we've been doing these for, I would say, about the last 10 years, 11 years. We do them across the country. So my colleague, Bruce Bloom, and we have an assistant evaluator. I used to do them too. I just don't have time with the other things I'm doing, like Campus Connections. I've got to kind of divide and conquer with my team. But our CVEs are very comprehensive vocational assessments. And when I mean comprehensive, I'm talking our reports are usually 20 to 30 pages long. They're not a one-page interest checklist or survey, and they're not even just the results. They're the results and then interpretation. So just like you would do with a neuropsych or a medical diagnosis, it's, yes, this is what the test says, this is what the results are, which we do give you those, of course. But what's most important, and I think in my opinion, more important, is we tell you what to do with that information. What does it mean when you interpret that? And you work from a perspective of somebody who's worked and placed people with disabilities hundreds and thousands over the last 10 years, 20 years, that we use our experience to give you that information. And so these are some of the assessments we use, things like the Berkman, things like the COPS. You can Google and look up all these assessments. I could do a whole presentation literally on this one slide, so I'm not going to do that. And I do. And I'm actually doing a future one with Allison and her team. We'll go more into this slide. So I'm going to leave that there for now, but that is a service we offer. And just so you know, we offer those both funded through Texas Workforce Commission, and we also offer them funded through private pay as well. And so the evaluations look a little different because TWC has their own criteria for what they'll fund and pay for. But we do offer them both ways, and we offer them both in Houston and in Austin, and actually across the country, California as well. We do quite a few assessments there. Next
so
slide.
Dr. Williams,
Oh, yeah.
one of the things that I think about when I think of you guys, so like as a parent, okay, so I told you I've got special needs kids. Why do I need you if I can have Texas Workforce Commission and vocational rehab? And what I would say to that, I would liken this for our parents that have had private testing through the Children's Hospital for their kids. And then they've had the school system based testing where the school has to test them as well. I found value in having a private agency evaluate my children because they were fully evaluated accurately, not for their own, their own what they want to pay for and what they don't want to pay for, basically, because I wanted my child fully assessed. So to me, the value whenever I was meeting with Bloom is basically, well, number one, they have the connections with these organizations. So if you're having a hard time getting connected with VR, they kind of are a conduit. Okay, so we have some other conduits and stuff like that. But basically, it's combining what you can get from VR, because basically when it's just a straight up state resource, you're not necessarily going to get in the weeds or go as deep and wide as what Bloom can, and specifically tailoring to your child and what they need. So to me, that was the why behind why might you need both, or why might you look at an outside firm to help you with this. I don't know if that resonates with you, Dr. Williams.
No, and I'd add to that, you're absolutely right. And a great way I explain it to people is you want an expert in what you're getting an assessment on, right? So if you want to know about neurology, who do you go to? You go to a neurologist. If you need a heart transplant, you go to a heart surgeon. If you need a psychological report, you go to a psychologist. If you need financial planning, you go to Allison and her team. Seriously, you don't go to me. I don't know what I'm doing. Don't come to me about that. But here's what I'll tell you. If you need vocational evaluations and assessment, you go to a vocational expert, which is Bloom. That's what we do. So I always tell people, people ask me, why work with you? Well, why work with any professional? Why work with any specialist? Because you're getting a specialist. You're getting somebody who just focuses on that particular thing. And that's really what my team are. That's what my colleague Bruce Bloom is. He testifies as a vocational expert in court settings all the time, frequently, both disability related and not. He does that because that's not my cup of tea. It's fine. It's just not my thing. But that's what he does, and that's because we're vocational experts. That's what we do. So it's a very different perspective. I always tell people, same with schools, educators. I'm a former educator, so is Deanne. Educators are experts in what? Education. But that doesn't make them experts in transition. That doesn't make them experts in vocational evaluation or vocational assessment. It doesn't make them experts in job placement. It makes them experts in education. So really, find the person that knows what you're doing. And again, I use Allison's team as an example. I wouldn't go to, HEB and say, hey, can you help me do estate planning for my daughter with special needs? No, I would go to Allison and her team because they're experts. So just keep that in mind. I think it's really important, and I totally agree with her. Deanne, real quickly, just like a minute or two, can you talk a little bit about the Berkman?
Yes, and I'm answering questions the best I can, trying to listen, so I'm cued when I need to talk. So if I'm not answering your question, Veronica already said that we would.
Great job.
Thank you.
It's hard, guys. Trust me.
I multitask pretty well as long as I don't have to talk while I'm doing it. So if you have questions that I'm not answering fully, Veronica said that they would be sending out something later, but again, I've given you my email contact. I would be more than happy to, email back and forth with you or set up a phone call or whatever.
Definitely. Same here. If you have a personal question, I'm happy to answer it. But if I don't answer on here, it's just because of time. So feel free to reach out and email me.
Yeah, he's talking fast and I'm typing fast. How's that?
Yep.
So
Guys, we have a recording. You're talking fast, but you have we are
that's
going
what
to
I
have a
told them.
recording.
Yeah.
Go back and listen again.
Go back and
Okay.
listen. There you go.
Okay, so Berkman is an assessment that has been used by government and Fortune 500 companies for over 50 years. It's been translated into 23 languages. It's used worldwide. And what I decided 10 years ago was, if we're going to do a college program and these kids are transitioning to be an adult, how about, let's look and see if this would be helpful to young people. I will tell you, I've used it with every staff that I've had in every program I've run for the past 20 years. It has helped me be a better manager. It has helped my team work better together. And it has also helped my team work better with students. And what it does is it addresses what some vocational career exploration. It also looks at what are their interests, and it looks at what some elements are that really are part of their personality, their DNA, that they hit the delivery table with some of this. Okay, now, because we want to work from strengths, it is really hard sometimes to get parents or students to identify what their strengths are, because it feels like bragging, or maybe they've just had a really rough year and they can't think of anything positive. So in order to get started with them the minute we get them in the program, we use the Berkman assessment and the information we get from it to determine, as you see on this slide, for example, with social energy, usual behavior means, how do people see me? Needs is what I know I need, but I may not have told anybody. I may not even be aware this is what I need, but the questionnaire and the way people answer them tell us what their needs are. And so we work with them to identify and understand those needs, and how when there's a conflict between what they need and what people see and are giving them, if there's a conflict, then it causes stress behavior. So it helps our staff understand when we're seeing stress behavior, where it's coming from, and how we help that student figure out how to get their needs met. This also goes into helping them communicate with family, with friends, everyone, that they know how to get their needs met, because again, we're not mind readers. I've even had staff who have gone home and said, honey, you are taking this assessment because we're having some conflict and I need to figure out where it is. And so, so we tell kids, we're going to go over this. It's like a lot of information, but I will tell you, it's a tool that we put in a binder. They keep it and they refer to it for the rest of their lives. I open mine every couple of months and go over them again, just to realize that, this is who I am, and this may be why I'm stressed today. And the same thing with people who work for me. So it's a wonderful tool. Again, it didn't start with working with young people, but it has worked really, really well. And this will show you the career exploration part. Based on their answers to the questions, these are the people that answer those questions most like them. So it helps begin to look at what kind of majors might be good for them, what kind of jobs we can start talking to TWC about, so they can start helping us look for internships and employment once they graduate. But what I will tell you is, this instrument alone does not tell you that you are college material. It tells you about yourself that will apply to whether you're going into the workforce, or if you're going to go to college and then go into the workforce. So when James referred to all those other assessments, that's the beauty of this marriage, because I have the education stuff. I know that this Berkman stuff really helps in college. Amazing how much it helps. But I'm not an expert in voc rehab. And so therefore, they know the instruments if we need to get deeper into what their vocation needs are going to be, that we can pull those instruments. So again,
we have about 5 minutes. We have about 5 minutes left. And one thing that that you said, Deanne, that I wanted to touch on is, it doesn't say yes, they can go to college, or no, they can't go to college, or whatever. But one thing as a parent that I've had to figure out is some of our kids are late to the party. And so they might not be ready to go to college at 18. Maybe at 18 or 22, they could take one online class at the community college or whatever. And maybe we work up to full-time students, and maybe it is never. But there's so many other programs. But I just want to encourage other parents, when you're looking at your kid and your kid's 17 or 18 years old and you're like, eye roll, there's no way that's ever happening.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, their brains aren't fully formed until they're 26. Okay. That's one thing. The other thing is that honestly, you know, if they're ADHD or high functioning autism and things like that, they're a little bit behind their peers.
Yes.
And so give yourself some grace, give your child some grace in that department. It's okay. They're going to come full circle. So even though it might seem hopeless I mean, I can tell you at 14, I thought, oh my gosh, never. It comes, and maybe your path is a little bit different. Your path doesn't have to be the same as everybody else's. It's really tailoring this on what it works for you and your child, and that is okay. And if it's 5 years later, it doesn't matter. It's okay. But that's not what society tells us. I mean, it starts in kindergarten. Well, when did they do this and when did they do that? I mean, it just
Right.
starts.
Developmental pathways.
The never-ending comparisons start. So I wanted to say that I personally had to learn that as a parent, and I feel great about our path now. Our path is different, but it's okay. It's okay. So I just wanted to share that.
Part of that too, I was going to say, Allison, is that
and you can advance to the contact info.
It also applies to when they go to college. And one of the things we can help with is the minute they hit college, they start saying, okay, what do you want to major in? What do you want to be when you grow up? I didn't know for sure at 18 what I was going to do. I was going to be a choir teacher. Now, if you've heard me sing, you would know that was dead in the water a long time ago. But anyway, that's what I thought I wanted to be. My niece wanted to train dogs in the Marines. Okay, just crazy things because they don't know any better. And so one of the things that we can do is help them navigate that, because you can be undeclared, even though they will tell you, no, you can't, no, you can't. Yes,
you can. Yes, you can.
We really do try to help.
The main message that I'm getting are our kiddos have options. Don't, you know, as parents, you know, close their eyes and say, you know, after the yellow bus came and pick up our kids, what are they going to do, right? So that's why we need you guys and VR and do all these transition steps to help our kiddos to be the best they can be. It is a college thing that they can do, or is, you know, our job or something like that, and there are options. So thank you so much, James. I don't know if we are going to answer questions or
we can. We can. Allison, do you want to add something before we do that?
Yeah, another thing that I wanted to say is that that we, and I'll put that up on the screen in just a second. But we do have a YouTube channel, and we have done a couple of presentations, and we'll do more this year on various programs in the state of Texas. We don't do Nevada. Various programs, certificate programs, degree programs, all kinds of different programs that are available across the state of Texas for kids that learn differently. And so that is on our YouTube channel. You can go back, and we had like directors from each of these schools and share a little bit about who, what, where, when, why, and who's a good fit for this program. And so it was kind of I think it was an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but I think there might have been seven different schools talking about their programs on that. So it was actually pretty good. And we're out of time. When it comes to special needs planning, this is maybe a screenshot, take a quick picture. These are some things when it comes to special needs, financial planning, overall in general transition planning for your youngster. These are some things that should be on your checklist, on your notebook, that we should be talking about. Okay, so I just like to put that out there. All of these little things matter. There are some things that are critically important that you might not know about, but again, on our YouTube channel, we have videos on all of these topics, and we bring those every single month. We have a couple of educational events. Usually each week we have something going on. So anyway, this is such great information, and Deanne and Dr. Williams, I'm just so happy to partner with you guys, and I'm so happy to share this information. I feel like it's valuable. I hear every week that our families need your services. I hear the disconnect between vocational rehab, and I hear the desire of a mama's heart to move their child along and for their child to be happy and successful, whatever it is, whatever that job is. Maybe it's going to be something that's very financially lucrative. Maybe it's not, but maybe it means that your child leaves the public school at age 22, and instead of going to the house and playing video games or sitting on a computer, they have a job to do that they're going to enjoy. I mean, like I said, everybody's path is different, but I'm just so thankful that you guys joined us today. And Veronica, as always, thanks for partnering with us. And if we can be of any assistance to you guys going forward, we certainly hope we can.
And can I ask Allison or Veronica? Veronica, it's probably you would know this answer. We've got some Q&A questions about how to get the slides. Are they going to be sent out afterwards?
Yes, I told them that.
Yes, we are going to send an email with all the slides and also with the link of if you want to see the video or our Facebook, where to look in our Facebook page for you guys to see it again. And join us in this kind of presentation about transition. We have a couple more with Allison talking about all these kind of topics. And I'm going to talk with James later on and see if we can have another this kind of presentation again with us. Thank you so much, Bloom Consulting, James, Deanne.
Thank you guys.
Great answers, great information for our parents. And thank you for joining us, guys. And good afternoon, everyone.